What's going on, everybody? Kent Howard with Green Mountain Defense coming at you today with another gunsmithing video for my education with the Sonoran Desert Institute. If you'd like to check them out, hit them up, www.sdi.edu. So far, so good. Not far enough into it to give you a review on the whole degree program, but someday I will. Anyway, today's assignment is being done for my Gunsmithing Tools Lab. The point of today's assignment is really to go over the different tools that we might use in the disassembly procedure of this firearm, but also to prove that we can do it. So first things first, we're going to make sure we're working with a clear weapon. Source of ammunition removed and is empty. Chamber locked to the rear by my left-handed self. Have to use my trigger finger to do it. No bueno. Visually and physically inspect chamber and breech face and the funnel for the magazine source, and we have a clear weapon system. We will then run the slide home. Press the trigger. We will depress the slide about a 1/4 inch. Pull down on the tabs. Allow the slide to come clear of the frame. There we have a field strip frame for a Glock 26 410 pistol. Recoil spring assembly, if I can talk. Barrel and slide. So we're going to work on these components separately. Really, there's no more detail strip to be done to Mr. Barrel. He is what he is. And again, I mean, I suppose we could take the spring off the guide rod, but it's a Gen 4, so we don't really have to do that. Some Gen 3s have adjustable guide rods and spring assemblies allowing us to go further, but not this guy. Gloves are good. We like gloves. I'm not doing this at the bench mainly because it's difficult for us to film over there. Kind of wanted to give you guys a better version of what I'm doing. So for now, I'm going to sit the slide aside. I'm just going to work on the frame. Going to knock out the pins, 3 of them, from left to right on this here frame, and I'm going to use my super duper fancy vice bench block, whatever you want to call it, or roll of masking tape, because I don't have one. Santa Claus didn't get here yet. We can get some punches out. Make a determination as to what size punch we need to use. That guy looks pretty good. Pin 1 came right out. Somebody's going to give me trouble though, I just know they are. Pin 2. Oh, come on now, pin 2. And finally, somebody's going to have an attitude. I think we all know it'll be this guy. Out he comes. Mallet is your friend. Pin 1, pin 2, pin 3. Get under the locking block here. Trigger assembly wants to come out first, but I want the locking block out. There's Mr. Locking Block. Now the trigger assembly can come out. And the slide stop, spring, and slide stop can come out. So now we have a detail strip slide. Able to be cleaned, parts able to be changed, fixed, repaired, etc. Things I don't remove during detail strip because I don't find them to be necessary to remove for normal maintenance unless they are broken are the takedown levers right here or the ambidextrous magazine release on the Glock. Can I remove it? Sure. It just involves getting a little flathead down in there, popping up a spring and pulling it out. Why take it out just to put it back in? And these guys are a little more of a pain in the rear to remove, unless I find them here. I'm referring to that right there, the takedown lever. There's one on each side. They just kind of tend to be a pain in the butt to remove, and I don't find it necessary. So there you go. Detail strip, Glock slide, detail strip, Glock frame, trigger assembly, locking block, slide stop, slide release, pins 1, 2, and 3. We're gonna go ahead and cut and come back in a second. Okay, now we're gonna reverse that and we're gonna reassemble this frame. First thing we're gonna remember is pins come out left to right, they go back in right to left. I'm gonna take my trigger assembly here. This is a, oh God, now I can't remember, Overwatch trigger assembly from Overwatch Precision. Shout out to those guys. And drop him in like so. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the grip pin. To seat the back of the trigger assembly. And we want to see him sit flush, like that. Good rule of thumb here is if you got to start forcing stuff, you're probably not doing it right. That just went in like butter. So we'll go ahead and cut, move on to the next step. All right, step 2. This is where this can get a little bit tricky. We get the slide stop and slide stop spring that has to sit right in here next to the trigger, like so. It's got to line up with the pin. Then we got to drop the locking block in on top of it without bending the spring or breaking anything, which we've done successfully. The spring is now correctly seated. Now we need to reposition the trigger pin, which you can see if you look through, you can see the things aren't quite aligned. So what I like to do is I like to use my punch as kind of a slave pin. I like to get the whole way through there, and you see my punch comes through at the other side. Now we can simply follow the punch with all of our extra hands. This can prove to be difficult, but there he goes. Just like that. Do not force that. Do not attempt to push through it. Don't attempt it without using something as a slave on the other end. If you try and hammer on that, you'll start bending and breaking slide stop springs. Ask me how I know. What you'll notice is your slide stop will spring back and forth correctly. Next, we have our third and final pin, which doesn't want to go in because it wants to fight with me. There's always something. Gotta get this guy over the slide stop spring. So we gotta kind of pull down on that spring. Or from the opposite side, perhaps push down. Just like that. Get him to go home as well. if you're unable to see, what I was doing was that top pin has to ride over the slide stop spring. If you push that pin and force it in without that spring being in the correct spot, you'll end up bending your spring and you'll end up with failures that are unnecessary. All right, now just for demonstration purposes, we're going to go ahead and put the slide on the pistol. Slide stop spring works as it should. Life is good. We're going to go ahead and cut, come back to the next section. Okay, so next we're going to work on the slide assembly. So, a couple things. Parts under spring tension. We're going to take off this rear cover plate. How are we going to do that? Well, first, we're going to get our punch, and right down in here between the extractor and the slide itself is a little plunger that we're going to push forward toward the barrel end, basically. So we're going to get in there, push down, and start to slide this cover plate off. Now, again, parts under spring tension. So this paw caught all the springy stuff. This paw ended up with the cover plate in its hand. Just like that. Now, we can actually remove the striker assembly, the extractor plunger spring, the extractor plunger, and if we push down on the plunger safety and wiggle, we can remove the extractor himself, or herself. I guess it could be a gender neutral extractor, and pull the plunger safety out. There is your field stripped Glock slide. Tool required for that, really just a punch to be able to pull that excuse me, plunger down towards the barrel end. So if we wanted to, we could clean all this. I'm just going to reassemble it. So first things first, put our safety plunger back in. Send our extractor home. That's not going to be super tight, but it will be tight. It does need to be able to move somewhat freely, which you can feel movement, but it will not come out. At least I don't think it will. I hope I have it in there correctly. We're just going to make sure I got it. Yep, we're good. Just like that. Again, it will move around some. Extractor plunger. Extractor plunger spring. Again, parts under spring tension. Pay attention. Striker. Make sure he goes home. We're going to start to simply seat this guy. We're going to get our plunger back in where we had it in the first place. Push down. Be careful not to let it fly. These parts are plastic. They should not be reefed on super hard. It also greatly helps when you have the effing end plate in the right way. This is just one of those deals where your hands go to mush sometimes. Voila! Just like that. Our boy should go back together all Glock-like without an issue. Function check, trigger press, reset. Good to go. Empty mag causes lock. Good to go there. And since we screwed with the slide assembly, we're going to cut real quick, and I'm going to grab a dummy round, and we're even going to test that. Dummy round, no powder, no primer, made on reloading bench, only for the purposes of testing function. Okay, you can go back to where you were. Thanks. So no possible way this could fire whatsoever. No propellant, no primer, not gonna happen. Only piece of anything remotely like ammunition within my hand's reach. So we're gonna go ahead, gonna make sure we can properly feed the dummy round, which we can, and make sure that the firearm will properly extract and eject the dummy round, which it did. There you go, folks. That's the complete detail strip and reassembly of the Glock 26 4th generation pistol. Things of note that we did not touch are mainly the takedown levers, because why bother? The magazine release, because why bother? I just find them to be tedious. Can I do them? Yeah. I just don't want to fumble around all day with them. And one more thing of note, we did not mess with the channel liner in the extractor channel, mainly because that is a consumable part. Once that is removed, it absolutely positively needs replaced, and I just don't want to replace it for no reason. Other than that, that's the full complete detail strip and disassembly of the Glock 26 4th generation pistol. This has been Kent Hauer with Green Mountain Defense. Thanks for checking in. Please remember to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. www.greenmountaindefense.com, Facebook at Green Mountain Defense, YouTube at Green Mountain Defense, Instagram at Green Mountain Defense. See ya.